I'm Michael from TrainedParrot.com, and I'm here with Dell Richards from Bird Wildlife Safaris. We're out in Queensland, outside Cairns, looking at parrots, looking at birds, and Dell's going to tell us a bit about him.
Thanks very much, Michael. We've been out in all kinds of habitat today, from rainforest to open savanna. We've seen a lot of things in open savanna land, mainly red-tailed black cockatoos, white cockatoos, red winged parrots, and they were the major features. We've been back in the rainforest just recently. We've seen the double-eyed fig parrot, which is Australia's smallest parrot, and it wasn't easy to see. It was up in the fig tree where it should have been, and that was it took a bit of finding, and even when we found it, it wasn't easy to see because they're the same colour as the leaves. But overall, this morning we've seen about 60 or 70 red-tailed black cockatoos. We're very fortunate. We got some about eye level eventually, and they have been a feature of the day because they're large, they're slow flyers, but they tend to all move away pretty well if they're disturbed, which is interesting because technically they wouldn't have any enemies that I can strictly say would be a sort of a general problem to them. The lorikeets here, they live mainly on blossom of the eucalypts, or rather rainforest type trees, and they're very beautiful, and they move around a great deal as trees blossom, and a new lot of trees will blossom some other area. So they are very, very mobile and nomadic. That is one of the keys to those, but they're also quite aggressive, very noisy birds, and they upset and disturb other birds just by being in their presence.
Right. Can you list all the parrots that you can see in this part of Queensland?
Well, a lot of them are in the rainforest. The ones that we would tend to find in the rainforest, heavy rainforest, would be Australian king parrot. The other one is the crimson rosella, which is a very beautiful one. You are likely to find them around Melbourne in Victoria because they go from here right down south. King parrots.
What a surprise. So you weren't able to see them just now, you just identified them by the sound?
Yeah, by call. They were related closely to they're the only other relative to that red winged parrot we saw. They've got a different flight structure to any other Australian parrot. And but these are kind of happenstance. They normally live on quite a lot of the rainforest fruits in tops of the trees. But anyway, king parrots. The three cockatoos we saw today were this Australian galah, which is pink and grey, the red-tailed black cockatoo, which is rather large, and the sulphur-crested cockatoo. They were the major ones that we saw out in the open savanna. You've got to go further west into more desert country to find, or dry country to find, budgerigars, the common cage bird, and also cockatiels, which are commonly kept in the United States. We stood a chance of seeing them today, but we weren't in a dry enough area at this point.
So what's the secret to finding parrots in the wild and spotting them well?
Knowing their habitat, understanding their needs. A lot of the parrots need to come to water once a day, twice a day, sometimes more than that. And that is one of the keys to understanding that if you're in a dry area where they really need to come to water just through the sake of dehydration. And that is with a lot of the inland Australian parrots, that is the case. The rainforest parrots, they don't have to go to water so much. The fig parrots we observed an hour ago, they probably don't take water at all because they get sufficient moisture out of the figs that they eat all the time. They also eat termites and eat a few other different types of flowers like mistletoe fruit, etc. So they're not just, even though they're a fig parrot, they do eat other fruit.
So speaking of habitat, so what would you say is the most typical average habitat that parrots in Australia live in? Do they live in the rainforest?
Well, there are structures where they can. There are a number that live in the rainforest, only found in the rainforest, but they're the minor part of it. Mainly they're savanna woodland or open woodland. we don't use the terms woods in Australia, it's always woodland and eucalypt woodland, and from that you get other species that live right into the desert like the princess parrot. Some of those, another small one that's night active is called the Burke's parrot, but it's seen late in the day and late at night, and it travels to water late and or just on dusk and just before daylight in the morning. They tend to be night active.
So speaking about parrot schedules, what is a parrot's typical day in terms of morning, midday, and evening, their activity? What are they doing throughout the day?
Well, you'd find most of them would they either feed on grass seed or seeds of trees, or like we saw today, or the blossoms. The lorikeet live on blossom pretty much, and the blossom in the eucalyptus or in the grevilleas, which are another type of tree in Australia, ornamental tree, they let their blossom or their nectar go in the morning, and that is to increase the pollination value of birds that come early in the morning. That probably wanes during the day, and they also let it go at night time, so they become more attracted to bats after dark. So they've got two kind of stages, and that's when birds are most active. The lorikeets, quite often they'll preen each other during the middle of the day. That's a rest period of 2 or 3 hours.
Can you tell us about the diet of parrots in Australia in general? What do they mostly
Generally,
do?
mainly grass seed or tree seed or eucalyptus seed. As we saw today with the red-tailed black cockatoos, they were taking bloodwood seed or bloodwood seeds from the bloodwood gum nuts, and you would find that the red-winged parrots we saw also today they live on much the same thing, or they can do, but a lot of them feed on the ground, as do budgerigars, etc., and pick up a lot of the seeds off the ground.
How many hours of night do parrots tend to sleep?
I'd say all night. They go to bed rather early and you don't hear much of them.
Well, what advice would you have for people keeping parrots as pets? What can they learn from wild parrots to do a better job at home?
I'd try and get some, they like chewing wood. Many of them do that. That's just part and parcel of sort of keeping their beak in good order. That's one thing that's important. You'll find that if you get a certain piece of a type of timber or preferably a branch of a tree, you'll find that they like pulling it apart, and that sort of, they're quite intelligent, and that would keep them busy. So that's a good point, but you're going to find in the other side of the world that they will prefer some trees that are probably not as aromatic or whatever, that just to chew, just to keep them busy.
And what about the social structures of parrots? What have you observed?
Well, most parrots will mate for life because of their age factors. Some of the cockatoos we saw today would probably live up to 100 years old, like the sulphur-crested cockatoo. So it's important that they have firm mating structure or pairing structure to go through and sort of maintain the pair all through their life.
What about flock structure? How do they engage with each other?
They generally, flocking is with the Australian white cockatoo, they've been known to have a sentinel out, and if the sentinel was out and it allowed the rest of the flock to get injured or somebody killed in that, they've been known to kill the sentinel. So we had a legal card game in Australia, and the person that watched for the police coming, he was always called the cockatoo. That was back in the Depression in the First and Second World War, and it was his job here to give the alarm, and that's why when you see a large flock of cockatoos on the ground, there's always one or two remain in the trees, and it's their job to act as sentinels.
And quick question about kangaroos. We were talking about kangaroos before, and I was a bit surprised, but what can you tell us about the kangaroo food industry and how they get them?
We were talking about this earlier today. There's something in the area of 60 or 70 million kangaroos in Australia, wild kangaroos, and you asked me about what we do as far as cropping them, and we take about 2 million or a few more, over 2 million for pet food and for domestic use, and a lot of that gets exported to Russia, places like Russia and Germany, where they have a very important, Germany has a very important beef festival, after Oktoberfest, and they get a lot of different meats around the world. Probably wild meat from or bush meat from Africa and things like that, but they do take kangaroo into Germany for that reason.
And finally, what kind of moral lesson can you give to pet parrot owners around the world? What should they learn or do or think about?
Well, parrots are very intelligent and their memory structure is very good, and they just enjoy them. But make sure you interact with them. That's the main thing. But be patient with young birds. You can talk a lot of the parents will talk back to you and relate to you, and they very, very strong bonding between a lot of the parrots and humans.
Would you like to mention your website and how people can get a hold of you if they want a lovely bird tour and when they're visiting Cairns?
Yeah, I've been in business for 20 years now, and my business name is Fine Feather Tours. I'm based in Mossman, which is north of Cairns, near Port Douglas and the Daintree River, and my web address is info@finefeathertours.com.au.
Okay, this is Mr. Dell Richards. Thank you very much for having us.
Pleasure.